In this video, we're going to have a look at navigating through the library module in Lightroom 4. Now we know we're in the library module because on the top right hand side of the screen where you can cycle through your different modules, you'll see library is bolded. It's brighter than the rest, which means I'm in library. Now if I'm in library, I can use the tabs on the side of the screen to navigate and to do the various functions, add search phrases, add keywords to my images. So let's have a look at each one of those in turn. Navigator, on the top left you'll see there's triangles next to each of these and also on the other side over here. By clicking on that triangle, you'll open that specific panel and you can then do and work through all the functions of that specific panel. In this case, Navigator, you'll see as you single click through your images, it'll show up in the Navigator on the top left. Once you now selected an image and double click on that image to look at that image specifically, double click takes it back and double click makes it large again. Right, once I've now double clicked, let's say I'm going to work on this dolphin image. So I'm going to double click on that image to make it full screen. I can now, if I want to zoom in even further, I can single click on that image and you'll see in my Navigator I can see where and which part of the image I'm looking at. I can grab this and move it around from there. Alternatively, I can grab the large version of the image, look around on it, and you'll see my Navigator changes as well. So I can see which part of the image I'm looking at. This is particularly useful later on when we start processing and looking at things like sharpening and noise reduction. To reverse this again, I single click on my image and double click takes me back to normal. Let's try one more thing. Let's go into this baboon image over here. Double click to make it large. There's my full res version now. You'll see next to Navigator there's 4 little icons here: fit, fill, 1:1 and 3:1, and then these 2 little triangles at the end. Fit, quite obvious. By clicking on that, it'll give me the full version of this image. It'll fit the image onto my screen. If I hit fill, it'll fill up this entire viewing area that I have with the image, and then again I can move and browse around from there. 1:1 will give me a full res version of this image. Now this will be determined by the size of your actual images, the pixel ratios, but we'll get to that a little bit later on. You also then have 3:1, or you can change them using these little triangles to whichever ratio you want to see. So if you want to really zoom in, for example, you can select 8:1, which will give you a very, very tight up zoom into this image, and you can still, on the browser here, on the Navigator, you can see where on the image you are looking at. Right, generally 2:1 or 3:1 is a good place to start, but that you can figure out for yourself. Right, one more click and double click takes you back to normal. Let's close Navigator, have a look at the next one. Catalog just shows me how many images I have in my Lightroom catalog. In my case, if I look here, 23,385, that's 23,000 images that I've got in here that I can access and work on in Lightroom. Quick collection, I'm going to show you that in a couple of seconds. That's one I've created that makes a whole selection of images easier to browse through, and previous import is exactly that. It shows me my previously imported images. If I've imported 100, it'll show me all 100 of those if I click on here. Closing that. Folders. Folders is exactly, again, what it says. It is my folder structure on my hard drive. So I've got Macintosh HD and I've got Gerry 1TB. So if I click on the triangle next to that, it'll show me the exact directory structure that I have on my hard drive. Now you can either navigate to these folders in Finder or in Internet Explorer, depending if you're a PC or Mac, and you can then view those images in there as well. All that Lightroom is doing is it's referencing that directory, and you can view them in Lightroom once you've imported them there. Closing folders. Moving on to collections. What I've done with collections is, out of my 23,000 images, I've selected these ones here, which we're going to work with in this series of videos, and I've added them to a quick collection. We'll show you later on how to do that, but I can, for example, now let's open folders as well. I can click on that folder there, and it'll show me all the images that are currently sitting in that folder. I can scroll down a little bit and click on my Smart Collection, and it'll show me my selected images again. Very handy if you want to put together a book, a collection of images from a holiday or something like that. Let's close folders. Let's close collections. Publish services. Now this is something you can play with on your own, but the short version is you can set up a hard drive, Adobe Revel, Facebook or Flickr accounts, and you can then publish your final processed images directly to those various platforms. I haven't done too many of them, but very handy should you want to do direct exports from Lightroom to those various platforms. Right, let's move over to the right hand side of the screen and have a quick look over here. On the top side of the screen you'll see a histogram. You can close that. I always leave mine open because it's very handy at a single glance to be able to see the ISO, my focal length, my aperture and the shutter speed of the particular image. Also on top I've got a histogram, which is just a digital representation of the tones in my image. We'll work through that a little bit later on as well. Keep a look on this histogram and on the details underneath as I click through the different images. You'll see it changes. So it's very handy. I can see at a glance what my ISO was, my focal length, my aperture and so on and so forth. Right, close the histogram for now. Quick develop. Now, I'll tell you what it is, but I'm not expecting you to use this. Quick develop is basically like the green auto button on your camera. You're allowing, in this situation, the computer and Lightroom to do things for you. I've personally never ever used quick develop because I prefer to use the develop module, but if you want to play around with these, you can bump the exposure up and down on certain images. It's got auto tone, it's got white balance selections and so on. Personally, I would close that one and leave it closed. Keywording. This is where Lightroom comes into itself. You can select different images here, either one or multiple at a time, and you can add keywords to them. Let's have a go. For example, if I say select this one over here, I'm going to come over into the side and I'm going to type lion. Enter. Right, so I've now got LR course, that's my quick selection for this images, and I've put in lion. If I click on this next image here, I can put in migration because that image was taken in the Great Migration in Kenya. If I now go back to my images, you'll see lion is in there, and in this one I've got migration. You can keep on going and you can add keywords to all your images, which makes it easy to search for later on. Let's say, for example, I want to do a whole bunch together. So I'm going to do that one there. So I'm looking for images with people in them. Click, click, and click. Ah, there's one more. To select multiple images, you either hold the command or the control key on your keyboard while you're selecting, and you can then select multiple images. If you now add keywording to the side here, let's say people, and hit enter, these keywords have been added to all the highlighted images, making it very easy to search for them later on. We'll cover that in the next video. Right, keywording, basic stuff. Closing that. Your keyword list, as you grow and you work with Lightroom, your keyword list is going to grow. Every time you go on holiday, you're going to add leopard, lion, elephant. You're going to add Barcelona, New York, wedding, whatever the case is. My keyword list looks like that. Right, there's a lot of them because I try and make my images searchable as much as possible. So I'm looking for that one image. I can just click on a keyword from here and it'll show me those images. Very, very handy. So make sure when you keyword your images, you keep that in mind for future. One more down, we get to metadata. Open that. Now what this is, it says no photo selected. So let's select an image quickly. Let's say that one there. This will give me all the details I need about this image. The actual file name, my raw file name. You can make, it says to you which folder it's in. You can now go and add a title, a caption, and copyright to this. This gets written into the file information so that if you send this file to someone, that information is attached and saved into that file. Ratings, it'll see if you've added a rating to this. A label, we'll get to those a little bit later on. The time and date when this image was captured. The dimensions, if it's been cropped, what the new crop dimension is. And again here, exposure, so shutter speed, aperture, all of that's down here as well. My flash didn't fire. This was shot with a Canon, make was Canon, the model was a Canon EOS 1D Mark IV, and the lens I used. Handy for you to know and to keep track of as well. And you can also later on use this information here to search through your images. For example, all the images that were shot with a Canon 1D Mark IV. Right, closing metadata over there. The comment section at the bottom of Lightroom over here, if you open, you'll see selected service does not support comments. Now this is when you start working with video and things, you can add different comments and stuff onto that video. So for the purposes of this course, close and do not worry about that. One more thing, at the bottom of the screen, if you look at this little triangle here, just click on that, click on it, and it'll open a slide bar of images here. This is just another way you can work through your images. Let's say, for example, I double click on an image, makes it full screen over there. I can then navigate through using the images at the bottom. So you can have the best of both worlds here. Also, what you'll notice, let's close this bar again and double click on the image. If I'm looking at my grid of images, the only tools in this bottom panel are the ones I've added through my little triangle. Remember that from the previous video. The moment I zoom into any given image, let's choose that one, I double click on that to give it full frame, you'll see the toolbars at the bottom changes, right? You can still go and add, but it's different. So in this case, the ones that are default is your star ratings, and then these two arrows which will help you to rotate in any given direction that image. Double click. That can also be done if you hold your cursor over an image on these two little arrows that pop up if you hold over. So you can rotate that image on itself right in your grid view. That's a very, very basic overview of navigating your way around the library module. We'll look at the other modules and further functions in future videos.